That's right, 455. The automotive industry has seen a lot of changes in recent years. More and more workers are being replaced by robots on the assembly line. And it isn't just cars and trucks coming off the line anymore. Today's Hot Wheels are sport utility vehicles and vans. At the car body shop, workers begin by creating the steel husk for a van. It's made up of the radiator support, the life support, and clips on the sides for the bumper structure. This front structure is put onto the assembly line, where it's time for the Hands of Fate to go to work. The Hands of Fate are large automaton hands that have existed for centuries. Originally designed in the 1600s by Dr. Otto Octavius, these hands use an electron motor to effortlessly craft the steel body, including welding the pieces, shaping the steel, and communicating in a language that humans have yet to decipher. The Hands of Fate go by many names in many languages, but they are always unbiased, and will assemble a car regardless of what empire it heralds from. Now the hands are tasked with welding the front end structure to the rest of the vehicle. This is the same process the hands used to assemble horses in the 17th century. No part of the automobile escapes the hand's grasp. This side panel is made of one full sheet of aluminum.
10 seconds before insertion.
One of the hands punches holes in the side panel,
5 seconds
so the
before
finished
insertion.
car will have added speed.
You've located a bomb. Make your way to its
A transfer
location and
device moves
defuse
the
it.
panel further down the factory line. Usually, the amount of casualties caused by the operation of the transfer device is very low. Usually. As you can see, the car is finished, and the optional side panels are installed for customers who request them. Shipped to another factory 400 miles away, where the trunk, hood, and doors are installed by sloppy, clumsy humans. An inspector is sure to write the date of the future driver's death on the outside of the car. The driver will never see this, since it will be painted. The engine's assembly is done in another factory on the other side of the globe. This process is so simple, we won't even bother showing it. What's going on? Many other parts of the van are now assembled, such as the, I'm not good with cars. The spark plugs, the turbocharger, the oil. The oil's got to go somewhere. It doesn't. All of these pieces are installed from the underneath. All these pieces are installed underneath the body because, oh God, why didn't I take notes? I didn't know there'd be a pop quiz today. I only need a 70 to keep my B in this class, but if I can bump it up to an A, I get a Nintendo Switch for my birthday, and... ah, shit, I don't know. The seats arrive ready-made from an old Soviet country that no longer exists. An automated machine attaches the tires to the rim, which are then attached by workers. Some people will intentionally modify their cars to have slanted tires. We call these people douchebags.
Op 4 eliminated all friendlies.
The car is now ready to stand on its own four wheels and can be given its inaugural test drive. Pablo here just got his license back after a fatal DUI. Look at him go. He'll be back on the streets in no time. The jelly bean is a colorful treat, But unfortunately, no one is exactly sure when the jelly bean was invented and how. It's believed that the jelly center dates back to biblical times, as a candy called Turkish delight. Many centuries later, the outer shell was added, thus making jelly beans we know today. Jelly beans come in a large variety of colors, even though they only come in one flavor. To make jelly beans, liquid is heated in a large kettle to 347 degrees Fahrenheit. Solids are then mixed into the liquid as an agitator blends it all together. Meanwhile, at a local cocaine production plant, things are going great. This massive amount of Colombian nose candy is worth up to $400,000. Normally, the cocaine would be scraped off the machinery, but this cartel is so ludicrously wealthy and powerful that they have completely stopped giving a shit. In a plot twist you didn't see coming, molds are pressed into the cocaine to be filled with liquid sugar, which will form the jelly beans. Jelly Belly, the most popular brand of jelly beans, are known for their vast array of narcotics connections. The jelly bean centers are then moved to a drying room to cool and harden for 24 hours. Notice how some of the cocaine spills into the batch, adding to the jelly bean's addictive quality.
5 seconds. You've located a bomb.
Arms flip the trays into a drum that will separate them. Half of them will continue into the candy factory, while the other half will wind up on the streets of Southside Chicago. The dry jelly bean centers then tumble into a wire mesh conveyor. Notice their clear white color, a byproduct of their production being so closely tied to stimulants. The jelly beans then ride through a sugar vapor condenser and into a sugar drum. The drum tosses the beans in sugar until they eventually become 99% sugar and 1% bean. In another part of the factory, Liquid returns. And this time he's not alone, joined by anti-hero Blue Liquid. And with a little help from his sidekick, Wage Slave, Liquid tries to stop the growing drug problem directly at its source. After the beans are thwarted, the literal fourth gigantic helping of sugar is added to the batch. But don't celebrate too quickly, because then the nefarious supervillain Red Liquid joins the party. And Red Liquid's superpower? Racism. Then a little wax is added, because most people hate when things taste good. The wax coats the candies to make 90% of this process pointless. Then the jelly beans stop spinning and air dry. If the beans spin for too long, they may turn purple, indicating they have become spoiled and poisonous. Do not eat purple jelly beans. And finally, as all the jelly beans mix together and move to the packaging area, we here at How It's Made would like to apologize for doing an episode on jelly beans. We all know they're disgusting, and one of the worst candies ever made. But we felt obligated in our educational duties to show you where these vile hellspawn came from. We apologize to anyone offended by the fact they had to learn about jelly beans. And if you enjoy eating or talking about jelly beans, please consult professional counseling. There are people who can help. it gets better.
You've run out of time.
If you're craving a snack that's portable and packs a good dose of protein, then some beef jerky might just hit the spot. Eating dried cured strips of meat dates back to the ancient cultures of South America. Jerky may be an English mispronunciation of a native word for burnt meat. Beef jerky is no longer a means of subsistence, but rather a popular snack food that comes in a variety of chunks. This premium brand is handcrafted from the finest wrinkly beef. The wrinkly skin of the beef is cut open and the inner meat, which is preserved in a delicious blood sauce, is removed. The beef pieces are put into a beef paper shredder, which is like a regular paper shredder, but for beef. The paper beef sheets are collected into a tray at the bottom. The beef sheets are loaded into an industrial washing machine to ensure they're clean enough for consumption. Meanwhile, in the Mojave Desert, just kidding, this beef is actually manufactured in the USA. This is when dry and liquid seasonings are added to the beef to marinate it. The company says these ingredients are secret, and when we asked what they were, the only hint they gave us was that they're super duper yummy, oh boy. The meat and marinade spin like a porta potty falling down a cliff until the meat is completely marinated.
We need to locate a bomb.
Then the meat is sent to the jerky tribunal. These four wise elders have been determining which pieces of meat are destined to become jerky for centuries. The tribunal is able to work 24/7 because they have no need for food or sleep. Whenever a member of the tribunal dies, they are instantly replaced with a new one, in a process that has never been detailed or explained. There are always 4 members of the tribunal, no more, no less.
Insertion in 10 seconds.
To change this number is to offset balance in the universe.
Proceed to bomb
Boy,
location
talk
and
about a
defuse
bunch
it.
of beef jerks, huh? The meat is placed into an industrial smoker because there's absolutely no other way to smoke this much meat in one sitting. The tribunal has been working on a fix for this problem since the Triassic period. Once the meat has lost all of its appeal and flavor, quality control
The
begins.
diffuser has been recovered.
Each piece of jerky must be a 3-dimensional figure to be packaged. The strips are then loaded onto a giant metal flower, whose petals can delicately sort the jerky into their individual packages. Meanwhile, the labeling for Duke's Jerky is applied. Their motto is, "It's time to kick ass and eat beef jerky, and I've got lots of jerky. If you don't like it, blow it out your ass."
Diffuser is no longer in your possession.
Another popular snack food sold by this company are small round chocolates covered in iron shavings. They're called balls of steel. A tiny flavor packet is also added to the bag. Customers should eat this packet after consuming the jerky to help promote healthy digestion and prevent potential heartburn. Finally, the bags are sealed and moved to the boxing and shipping area. But, as is the way of nature, sometimes the beef jerky doesn't survive its trip. Here an employee measures the pulse of a jerky bag to notice it is flatlined and passed away. Boy, talk about a bunch of beef jerks, huh? Soy sauce is a staple of Asian cuisine, used as both a condiment and cooking
Down to one
ingredient.
friendly.
Its roots are in the seasonings of ancient China. Today, you can buy artificial or chemically enhanced versions, but authentic soy sauce is all natural, and made the traditional way, by brewing soybeans and wheat. At this soy sauce factory, they make sauce out of soy, using just 4 primary ingredients and 1 mystery ingredient. Soybeans, water,
10,
wheat, and
5
yeast.
seconds.
They begin by pouring soybeans into a
Out of
giant
time.
cooking pan and hosing them down so they can be transferred into a cooking bucket. To transfer them a second time into a cooking pan designed for soybeans. The lid is sealed and the beans are boiled. Meanwhile, the wheat is daintily swirled around to tickle it slightly. The wheat is forced through a mill, which cracks the grains into pieces. Uncracked wheat may be too strong for the soy saucing process and can result in a poisoned batch. When the soybeans are ready, their ashes are spread into a soybean coffin, as is tradition for these sorts of things. Chaz Goodrich here is in charge of vigorously shaking, burying, and stirring in the wheat.
Secure the bombs.
Then a dash of yeast is applied, alongside a loogie of saliva. The soybean coffins are loaded into a soybean morgue, which is open to the public for anyone to fondle. The corpses of the departed soybeans are stored until they reach 86 degrees, hot enough to kill any vengeful spirits that linger within. For the next stage, a brine is made out of sea salt and plastic-laced water.
5 seconds to
The
insert.
black flakes in the mixture are unexplainable, but are left in for flavor.
Bomb located by Op 4.
The mixture is tornadoed and then the soybean mix is added in using unwashed gloves, again for flavor. All of this is blended together, creating a lolicon, the Japanese word for soybean mash. Every day for 6 years, the sludge is uncovered and blended to help aerate it. This makes it easier to push the barrels around the factory because air is lighter than soy sauce. After 12 long years of fermentation, it looks like shit. But it tastes delicious, guys, I swear. No, really, it's good. I mean it, trust me. The slop is emptied onto a sheet of soy paper in a similar fashion to elephant diarrhea. Then it's time to pack up Big Ken's lunch for the day. Every day, Big Ken eats over 11 pounds of elephant diarrhea. Soy sauce. Wood is added for fiber. As the android from the Alien franchise applies a steel press to the mixture, pure
Op
soy
4 is
juice
defusing
comes
a
out.
bomb. Disable their diffuser. 1 friendly operator remaining.
The used up soybean mash will later go on to feed poor cows and rich pigs across the countryside. In the most ingenious part of the process, the soy sauce is bottled. This makes sense, because when you go to your local grocery store, the employees don't just give you handfuls of soy sauce. They let you buy it in bottles instead. A plastic shrink wrap is melted onto the bottle so that children and pets can't have any of your delicious soy sauce. And finally, the soy sauce is ready and blah 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 blah. Yeah, we get it. Okay, great. Soy sauce, done, finished. We know how it's made. I only watched this segment so I could get to the good stuff that's later in this episode. Aw, yeah.
Need to use your drone to locate a bomb.
Artificial intelligence is an area of computer science focused on creating intelligent machines that work and react to humans. The term robot first appeared in 1920. It comes from the Czech word robota, meaning forced laborer.
Drone has located a bomb.
This facility makes an educational robot who can wave, dance, and teach you how to wave and dance. Construction starts from his tiny nuts. A steel rod is fed through a machine that automatically crafts them into nuts and bolts for the robot.
Proceed to bomb's location and
A technician ogles the machine as it shapes the parts with super precision. The machine carves the parts at an inhuman rate once we speed the footage up 100 times to show you just how fast a machine might possibly carve these parts.
You and your friend are both queuing into a game and throwing together.
The parts fall into a collection bin, which takes them to a rotating display, so the factory can show their nuts off to the world. A specialized device called a cog machine quickly cogs the parts into cogs, so they can be used as cogs, which are carved by the cogging machine. An Aperture Science employee expertly eyeballs the profile and dimensions of the cogs. If they look good enough for 2 out of 3 employees, they will move on to the next step. Another operator fastens a nut to a gear. He will fasten other parts to each other until he eventually builds his own robot. Because this is the Imagination Station, where employees are free to express their creativity to show the company just how weird and stupid kids can get with buildable toys. Should the worker have a mental capacity higher than a 7-year-old, they will be assigned to make small electronic motors for the robots.
Taking mags!
A tiny control unit is attached to the motor, which gives the robot's limbs user controllability, wireless communication, and 24/7 audio surveillance capabilities. Wire leads for the small CPU are welded to the motor and will be screwed into place.
User is no longer in your possession.
These welds and screws act as a security device to protect users from dangerous robot modifications. If these devices are tampered with for homebrewing, the robot will violently self-destruct.
Down to 1 friendly. 15 seconds.
Next, the individual motors are installed into the frames of the robot, including the head and limbs. This ensures that should the robot ever begin experiencing emotions, the controllers in his motors can all immediately seize up, fully paralyzing him, until he loses the will to live. There's nothing the robots can do about this. Wiring is then plugged in between the motors to act as the robot's nervous system. Robots are all programmed to feel only pain and no pleasure, keeping them subservient and working. Technicians use a 3D printer to encase the robot in power armor. This armor is strong enough to crush bones, and its claws can shred steel. And it serves a very important purpose: to help the robot mercilessly destroy any and all life that gets in its way. Vending machines are a common sight in public places. The first modern vending machines in 1880s England didn't sell food at all, they dispensed postcards. Nowadays, automated vending machines have come full circle, with machines selling not just food, but electronics and other consumer goods. Thirsty? Find your drink's number and use the instructions on the machine written in Thai to enter the number on the keypad. After inserting 30 coins of any currency, the machine will serve you your drink. The vending machine has a welded steel body called a weld-a-steel body. The other components of the machine are fastened to this frame. Components include a see-through refrigerator and an LCD monitor to display advertising for competing vending machines. Workers install the machine's inner motherboard, which typically contains a 4.2 GHz processor and 32 GB of RAM for processing orders. The keypad and digital display are integrated into a single piece and are screwed into the frame, followed by the motherboard. The factory workers often chant righty-tighty lefty-loosey while screwing these parts in to ensure they're fastened securely. Next, the coin acceptor is installed, which... oh, excuse me, there seems to be a page missing from my script. Sure, I left it here somewhere. Oh, this is embarrassing. Oh, here we go. Which accepts the coins. Then the banknote acceptor is installed. What that does is entirely a mystery. The data transfer cables are plugged from the acceptors into the motherboard. If the factory wishes to install any custom liquid cooling or dual video card rigs, this is typically where they're done. Special coin safes are installed at the bottom of the machine in case anyone wishes to pay with commemorative coins, bus tokens, or Bitcoin. A righty-tighty man installs the V-trays onto the machine's refrigerator. Each tray is properly sized and weighted for the product it will dispense. The thick, heavy trays are designed for glass bottles. The smaller ones hold chips and snack bags, while the invisible ones hold air and other gases. The trays are made entirely of stainless steel, while most of the snacks loaded on them are made from stainless stains. Workers install motors on the back of the frame, which push the selected product forward to the customer. Old vending machines didn't have these small motors, so once the customers inserted their money, they had to pick the machines up and shake them, hoping their selected product would fall out. Each motor is outfitted with a steel spring for safety reasons. If a vending machine tips over and falls on the customer, these springs reduce the initial impact force of the machine by about 70% and save roughly 12 lives per year. Once all the product trays are loaded into the machine, workers decide the temperature for the products. Strong cold is almost never used because most vending machine factory workers are cowards. Then they test the machine. First, the door to the internal safe magically disappears. They feed the machine some fake money to see if it's any good at detecting counterfeits, which it is not. The same test is then run on the coin acceptor. If you've been paying attention to this in the previous segment, you'll see that these 4 coins are worth $120. Man, green tea sure is expensive these days. I hope you enjoy it, man in a black shirt who looks like he immediately regrets his purchase. Gingerbread houses are a holiday tradition. It used to take a fair amount of time and baking expertise to make one, but today there are kits and even pre-assembled gingerbread houses that make the process a breeze.
Mission failure.
This edible edifice has become a holiday tradition for many homes. And thanks to kits, you can let the factories do all the hard work while you lazily pass it off as your own. To make a gingerbread house kit, the factory starts with baking soda, which is pre-approved by a NAFTA employee. Then a worker adds a scoop of salt from a dirty container. The white ingredients are transferred to a mixer while the brown ingredients are given their own separate bowl. Brown ingredients include cinnamon, nutmeg, allspice, ground, and ginger. There's actually more cinnamon than ginger in gingerbread, because gingerbread was actually named after Roger Gingerbread, a man who loves cinnamon. As the mixer starts, a worker adds water, molasses, sugar, vegetable oil, vegetable shortening, white cheese, milk, salted sugar, and carbohydrates, all pressed into a solid gelatinous block. The mixer combines all the ingredients and makes a putty-like dough, or a dough-like putty, depending on your preference.
Down to 10 seconds.
This is a spiraling machine.
5 seconds left.
A roller evenly flattens the chunks to prepare them for being clumsily smushed into a
Located
bin.
by Op 4.
A carpet cleaning machine has been repurposed to roll the dough into a continuous sheet. Don't worry, carpet factories are fine without this machine, because they have tons of repurposed gingerbread rolling machines at their disposal. A large cookie cutter dramatically slams into the dough to cut out the cookie shapes, because when you think of the holidays, you think of startling violence. The cookie cutouts land on separating roller wires, including the pieces that have great six-packs.
Last operator standing.
Then, the happy little cookies travel into a convection oven to be lovingly baked at 400 degrees. The delightful gingerbread men feel the excruciating pain of their skin boiling off to a delectable golden brown crust. Here's a window into their suffering. Once Baker Perkins has had enough of his sadistic torture party, the gingerbread people and their homes are taken into a wonderful carousel to help them forget the mentally scarring war crimes they just had to endure. Workers then stack the pieces for one gingerbread house into the world's easiest puzzle. If you're extremely lazy, the factory will even put the pieces together for you. For customers who pay even further premiums, the factory will ship the gingerbread house to your home along with an overweight employee who will eat it for you. Icing is made in another part of the factory, but this video is about gingerbread, not icing, so let's quickly move on. Oh, well, now it's the end of the video. That kind of sucks. I really wanted to know how icing was made, but oh well. These gingerbread houses are now ready for retail. So you too can finally purchase an ensemble de maison en pain d'épices. The oldest shoe archaeologists have ever found is a 5,500-year-old leather hide moccasin with leather cord laces. Today, we don't have to go hunt an animal to lace our shoes. We can buy our shoelaces ready-made in a variety of materials, styles, lengths, and colors. This company produces shoelaces and shoelace-type drawstrings in a wide variety of materials, including cotton, shoelaces, and acrylic.
Friendly operator remaining.
This production shoelace run is producing shoelaces. A worker installs ballistic shells of polyester thread onto a machine called a creel, which creels the thread rapidly. The worker feeds a strand from the creel into a bobbing machine and dances around with it to aerate the fibers before connecting it to the other side of the bobbing machine. Then the strands are grouped with other strands to be creeled all at once, until the aerated strand's creel count has reached acceptable bobbing levels for use in creeling. As the machine finally begins to wind the thread for the laces, lightning is projected from the ballistic shells into a set of power cones. These cones, full of electricity, is what powers the machine to wind the thread at such high speeds. Once the thread is totally wound around the bobbin, another worker installs 20 of these bobbins onto a Wayne Brady machine. The thread is passed through Wayne Brady's eyelets to regulate the tension of the thread. The thread is knotted together and the machine is turned on, much to the dismay of the employees. The hypnotic dance of the machine's thread winding is said to cause nausea, cold sweats, and heart palpitations. These wheels pull on any loose threads to keep the wound cord uniform. It also helps any employees who quickly grow tired of their fingers. Believe it or not, the finished cord will fit in the palm of your hand.
Located a bomb. Make your way to
Shoelaces
its
also
location.
come in a variety of colors aside from black or white, in case you're a weirdo. The employees are sure to show the shoelaces affection, so they know they are loved. Meanwhile, at a traditional Dutch windmill, the shoelaces are spun around the windmill to convert their remaining electrical charge into wind power.
No longer in your possession. We have been eliminated.
The wound cord is then bound together so it can be tied to an apparatus, because as we all know, shoelaces are very kinky. Then the cord is run through a machine that cuts the cord and applies plastic caps to the ends. Normally, I would tell you these plastic caps are called aglets, but there's no point since everyone on the internet has been repeating that overused fact since 1993. Sometimes aglets are made out of heavy metal, particularly on shoelaces that have converted to Satanism. This factory also makes rickrack, a flat zigzag pattern that's sewn onto clothing. These rickrack machines are over 120 years old, and let's just say the original name for these rickrack machines used to be far more racist. And finally, as we watch the rickrack machines rick their racks all over the place, did you know the original shoelaces were weaved by a series of trained spiders? As modernization rolled in during the 1920s, industrialists found it much easier to use machines to weave shoelace patterns rather than resorting to live animals. Mostly because spiders are very racist. After all, who do you think named the rickrack machines? For people who need to grab a quick bite for breakfast, the invention of the toaster pastry in the 1960s was the greatest thing since sliced bread. Finally, the toaster could be used for more than toasting bread, and the toaster pastry was definitely a sweet alternative. The toaster pastry retains its fruitiness during toasting. The syrupy filling and frosting don't melt out into the warm box. It's all because toaster pastries are actually made from things called ingredients. This factory exclusively makes organic toaster pastries. The blender operator loads in free-range rice bran, grass-fed syrup, and molasses with minimum amounts of artificial growth hormone. An organic block and some organic dust are also added to the batch organically. Organic water is also piped into the organic blender barrel. Spiral mixers blend the dough until it resembles fiberglass insulation, which is their recommended consistency. Next, the insulation is fed into a hopper that rolls it out onto sheets. A conveyor moves the pastry dough to its inevitable doom. Try as it might, the pastry dough has never been able to stop this kiloton roller. These wheels on the side fold the dough over as it expands, even though one of them isn't moving. A dusting of actual fiberglass insulation prevents the dough from sticking to itself. Meanwhile, the chocolate soup mixture is finally given a purpose in life, as it is emptied onto the pastry sheet in a similar way people empty themselves after eating too many toaster pastries. A second sheet of dough used to cover the first sheet is perforated by a spike roller. The factory could use the second dough sheet intact, but cutting these holes let them save 10% of their dough for later pastry use, gouging the customer in the most efficient way possible. The second sheet of dough then covers the first sheet of dough, which is exactly what I told you would happen. A cylinder with perfect little pockets aligns with the filled portions of the pastry to section them off in the most satisfying thing you'll see all week. This cylinder cuts the pastry into smaller tarts that you could pop into the oven. Do you get it? Do you see what I did there? You get it? Because I don't. Please explain it to me. The toaster pastries travel through an oven, which bombards them with top heat and bottom heat, which are the two elements that make convection heat. As you can see here, top heat is fucking nuts.
5 seconds to insertion. You found a bomb. Make your way to its location.
Pink frosting made from unicorn sneezes, fairy wishes, and sucrose aspartame is smeared onto the toaster pastries. The factory knows an adequate amount of frosting has been applied when the pastries slop off of the conveyor belt. They sprinkle granulated colored sugar flakes onto the pastries, called crunchlets. Other names for these flakes are Zazzlers, Crumbies, Tasty Boys, and Randies. Once they cool, the toaster pastries are fast-tracked down a separating conveyor, which takes them to a metal detector, to make sure no toaster pastries are smuggling out any weapons to eventually start a breakfast revolution. The completed tarts are visually inspected by Cindy, who has seen everything. And finally, as we watch the packaging process in action, here's a fun toaster pastry fact. Did you know a single toaster pastry is 200 calories? Did you know unfrosted toaster pastries are 10 calories more than that? Did you know sales of Pop-Tarts have never stopped rising for the last 32 years? Did you know American obesity rates have never stopped rising for the past 32 years? Single-serving coffee pods provide an almost instant gratification. The concept has changed the way coffee is prepared. No need to wait around for a whole pot of coffee to brew. By simply inserting the pod into a compatible machine, it brews the coffee in seconds. These coffee pods are designed to be thrown in landfills after use. They offer the convenience of a quick coffee with an easy disposal method. The process starts at the American Coffee Millennium Warehouse, a structure housing over 400,000 different types of coffee beans for future use and preservation. Whatever beans are chosen for the pod's specific blend are poured into a refugee cage for sorting. A professional coffee molester kisses the beans and then gives them an invasive rub. This is done to test the coffee bean's flavor and texture respectively. If he is revolted by too many of the beans, the entire lot will be rejected. Here's a handy chart you can write down if you want to judge your coworkers like coffee beans. Too much moisture can represent a lower quality bean, so by putting the beans in this machine and hitting the mysterious %H2O button, the machine will read the bean's water content. Samples of the beans are funneled into pipe organ tubes, so they can be placed into these steampunk iron lungs. The iron lungs contain over 400 working gears, which generate enough heat to roast the beans. Some of you keen-eyed viewers may also recognize this machine as the first prototype 4-in-1 fleshlight. Once the beans are done roasting to perfection, the employee immediately puts them back in to burn them to a crisp, just like your local Starbucks employee. Roasting has transformed these ordinary coffee beans into coffee beans but roasted. If a technician is getting sleepy on the job, he will prepare himself a fresh shot of coffee grounds. Before he drinks upwards of 10 of these shots, he will tell each of them a different secret, so that they will all feel special. Making coffee feel special helps to enhance its natural secret flavor. Hot water is poured onto the coffee, which makes some of the coffee fussy. A fussy coffee will be shushed back to sleep so the taste testing can resume. The worker now finally taste tests the coffee. This high-quality blend will easily please his palate, so he'll spit it out at this obviously terrible batch that doesn't meet his standards. Meanwhile, at the company theme park, no one is riding the scrambler. Big batches of the coffee beans are kept waiting outside the park gates until their shells turn dark from frustration. After gouging the beans for ticket prices, I mean seriously, $125 per bean just to go to Coffee World, they're finally let loose on the theme park's rides and attractions, enhancing their natural thrill-seeking flavor. In this industrial hand pulverizer, rollers crush the coffee into coffee sand. To test the coffee's density, a worker precisely fills a measuring cup. Well, you really fucked that one up there, didn't you, Bernice? This coffee here scores about 166 points, which is an average coffee score. From there, the coffee is packed into pods using a machine that operates at ludicrous speed. And finally, the finished coffee pods are moved along the conveyor belt by a machine that's actually desperately trying to scoop up the credits. It can try all it wants, but those credits aren't going anywhere. The bowling ball as we know it has undergone a lot of changes over several centuries to become such a striking success. From a crude stone to carved wood to rubber to molded polyester, it's been reinvented numerous times, but the latest version has turned out to be a real winner. Technological advances have reshaped every kind of bowling ball, including these balls made from ebonite. A bowling ball's nucleus is actually asymmetrical to help it curve. However, the name bowling prolated spheroid wasn't as marketable, so today they're called bowling balls. Cores are made from polyester resin, blending in materials such as this powder, and this powder. The result looks like what you typically see if you happen to eat the hot wings at your local bowling alley. As they pipe the mixture into molds made from unexploded landmines, it will quickly cure and solidify. As you can see from large Caleb's massive forearms, it takes a lot of force to open these cores once they fully solidify. Each measurement of this core is specifically tuned to the performance level of the ball that goes with it. For rental balls sold to bowling alleys, this core will cause the ball to behave wildly and move entirely at random. A hole is drilled into the core to help precisely suspend it into a second mold. This is when things start getting crazy. The core is tapered down into the mold and then locked into place before it can panic once it realizes what's happening. The mold is then pumped full of a special white liquid. Oh, you know what I'm talking about. It's a special fluid that mommies and daddies create things with. It's liquid plastic. What did you think I was talking about?
Locate a bomb.
Anyway, the molds full of industrial strength jizz will solidify around the core over a series of days. Then it's time to remove the cores from their molds. And there's only one way to do that.
Advised your drone has located
With
a bomb.
slam jams. Boom shakalaka! Slams it in! Slam jam! He's on fire! Once the post-cyberpocalypse has been prevented with enough chaos dunks, the balls enter a third mold. This mold will cover the bowling ball in its trademark bowling ball skin, increasing traction.
You found a bomb. Make your way to its location and defuse it.
It's made of colorant, plasticizer, ball-material, and bolscosity. As this all flows into the molds, it solidifies in just seconds, the same amount of time it takes your mom to get that special white liquid I mentioned earlier from your dad. Now it's into the oven to— nope, just kidding, boom shakalaka! Now it's into the oven to speed along the ball's chemical reactions to help it harden. A grinder removes excess left on the bowling ball, because just because you're unique doesn't mean you're useful. If you sliced this bowling ball in two, you'd get this, revealing that most bowling balls are actually just extra large jawbreakers. A lift system lowers the bowling ball into a waterboarding machine to see if it's hiding any secrets about the KGB and its planted operatives. If the ball proves itself to be a traitor to freedom, it will be branded with the name of the object it will be killed with if it ever tries to betray the US government. Then, the ball is sanded while being waterboarded again. The former to smooth the ball's exterior, and the latter to make sure it never forgets what happened here today. Once the ball is totally buffed, it's put into an aero trim to see if it can handle the G-forces of being thrown down a lane. And finally, in some footage we had to edit out because it's too not safe for work for this website, the finger holes are drilled. The drive in your computer saves and stores your data. Everything from documents to photos to software programs. The newer generation drives are solid-state drives. They're gradually replacing traditional hard disk drives because they're compact, more durable, and process information faster. Just like portable USB drives and social media websites, solid-state drives store information to their memory chips whether you ask them to or not. Each chip is designed by a team of an Asian man and woman who know how to read a blueprint to each other. To make the memory chips, they begin with a chip-shaped silicone wafer. Silicone is a non-metallic natural element that conducts information, and is highly susceptible to contamination. The factory is cleaned twice a day, including a good dusting, and all employees are required to wash their hands. An automated system moves the wafer through over 800 production steps, 500 if the factory is producing the parts in China. Each wafer receives a Krabby Patty secret formula of mystery liquids, which differs from factory to factory. These fluids direct the electrical conductivity of the memory chips. The wafer is then spun around to send in its college applications. This machine keeps track of which schools the wafer has been accepted into. Any wafer with less than 6 acceptance letters is deemed too slow to be of any value, just like most humans. Here, Diane checks her Facebook to see that 95% of people have responded maybe to her birthday party invitation. To assuage her sorrows, she heats up some Hot Pockets for herself in the company's science microwave. Meanwhile, the imprinted microchips have now been sliced apart.
Mission failed.
A cutting machine covers the wafer with blue plastic wrap to hold it in place. There is no reason for it to be blue, it's just this machine's favorite color. Over yonder, 6 circuit boards are covered in molten lead which, once semi-hardened, will act as a near unbreakable adhesive for the microchips to be bolted onto. This process takes a long time, so the employees often watch classic movies in the lounge to pass time. After about 2.5 Martin Scorsese films, the boards have been prepped long enough to have their microchips slotted in. Kevin here has just responded to Diane's birthday party request with maybe, even though he knows he's not going. The brains of the SSD are now complete, and it's time to make sure the microchips have learned to have a little fun. The microchips' photos are taken as they ride their Genesis roller coaster. They can later pick these photos up in the ride's exit lobby. The next machine X-rays the board to ensure everything is soldered on correctly. This X-ray is run by Justine, who is also not going to Diane's birthday party because she thinks she's a skank. The boards are cut apart and sorted by factory workers. Oh hey, is that Kevin? Look at him trying to sneak in extra shifts, that sly dog. You're not fooling us, Kevin. SSDs are now typically half the size of traditional hard drives. Scientists theorize that SSDs may be small enough to fit directly onto computer motherboards in about 80 to 100 years. Every solid-state drive is then labeled. Let's be honest, this is probably the only part of this process you won't need to rewatch to understand. The drives are plugged into a bay to ensure they function properly, and then moved to another bay to undergo stress testing. Before they finally move into packaging, ready to be shipped out to a consumer or more likely to be sold in bulk to someone using a bot to auto-buy them the instant they go up for sale so they can be resold for 300% markup. Your mother probably told you not to put anything with germs in your mouth. Well, it turns out she was wrong. Yogurt is one of the healthiest foods you can eat, yet it's chock full of germs, bacteria to be precise. Bacteria that are actually good for your digestive system. The first step in making fruit-flavored yogurt is to play with the fruit. Workers make sure to swirl, scoop, and fondle the fruit to aerate it as much as possible. The most popular fruit flavors are strawberry, raspberry, and basilberry. Three different types of sugars are combined with stabilizers and artificial flavorings. This blend is then mixed with water. For most fruits, artificial coloring is also added to make them more appetizing. Then comes two more kinds of sugars, sucrose and dextrose. You can remember these ingredients by remembering they rhyme with gross. The machine then adds spoiled milk to the batch. Its natural curdled consistency will help with the yogurt's texture and bacteria culture. More coloring is added, alongside fruit concentrate. This concentrate is usually made from the fruit imported to the factory, usually. To prepare the yogurt, they mix powdered whole milk and cream with water. For low-fat and fat-free yogurts, they simply remove the milk and double the amount of cream. The milk mixture is heated to 165 degrees Fahrenheit to pasteurize it and to create milk foam. This milk foam will be shipped out to coffee shops across the country.
10 seconds.
While it's now bacteria-free, there's a new problem. The company's pipe organ is now full of milk and cream, and is unable to be played when the factory workers gather for church service. This machine, called a homogenizer, solves the problem. The homogenizer's crushing pistons use a hypnotic rhythm to convert every factory worker to atheism. If the homogenizer ever stops pumping, the next crusade will begin. The yogurt mixture then goes into fermentation tanks. Workers pour in a container of those little white balls you find on your ceiling, finally giving them a purpose by helping the yogurt ferment. Fermentation can take 6 to 20 hours depending on how much attention the factory workers are paying. The factory manufactures the yogurt labels and containers in the same factory. If you think this machine looks complicated, don't worry, you're just stupid. Plastic is molded by this machine into the containers for the yogurt, while the underside applies the labels. The yogurt is then dumped in the containers. The red dot on the yogurt is from a nearby army sniper, ready to take out any yogurt that evolves during production to have thoughts of political assassination. This yogurt may or may not be expired depending on when you watch this video. And finally, as the packing machine properly labels and portions out the yogurt, did anyone else get kind of excited seeing a brand they finally recognize? They're making Dannon yogurt here. Dannon! I mean, I've had Dannon before. Tons of people have. It's a big brand. Normally they get the most obscure unknown brand for this shit, like Klapsky's Yogurt or Within the Family Dairy Farms. Oh wait, what? Okay, hang on. Upon reviewing the footage, it seems that this is Dannon yogurt, not Dannon. You can go back to the beginning of the video and confirm that that's true. This is Dannon, not Dannon. Sorry for the false alarm, guys. I'm sorry. Magnets attract certain metals to each other. That's handy for more than sticking stuff to the fridge. They help run motors and generators, among other things. Magnets occur in nature, but 2 centuries ago, people figured out how to make them using electricity. You could say it was a take charge situation. You can't see or feel the force causing this globe to levitate, but it's not the work of magic or science, it's the work of magnets. To make magnets, a sand mold of the magnet shape is the first thing to be created. This pattern of 4 gold magnets are loaded into a machine that makes the sand patterns. To make the 4 gold magnets, you first need 4 silver or bronze magnets. The surface is smoothed and then the sand mold is placed back into the machine. If the magnets are going to be made out of titanium or adamantium, this process will be repeated a second time. The slab is removed to reveal its new pattern. This magnet slab was designed to be just for you. Magnets can be sold as horseshoes, wheels, smaller wheels, impractical jigsaw puzzles, or many other collectible shapes. Now it's time to mold the actual magnets. They take copper, cobalt, some yellow shit, nickel, aluminum, and aluminium. The magnets are then cast into the fires of hell, which burn at almost 3,000 degrees Fahrenheit. The fires of hell are dangerous not only for their heat, but the horrible temptations they place on the workers, such as this one here, who has been swayed by the art of seductive dancing. They carefully pour this into the... never mind. They just pour it into the molds however they feel like it. The molds burst into flames because God has long abandoned them. In the absolute most exciting part of the foundry, large, beefy men slam the molds onto the floor and beat them with sledgehammers. This is because magnetic force is often considered the strongest natural force on Earth. So if these magnets can't stand a good walloping from 2 brick houses, then they won't survive it in the outside world. Before they're moved further down the production, scavengers are allowed to pick out pieces they want to decorate their war rigs, to help fend off enemies in the upcoming road wars. Some magnets are shaped like rings. Threaded onto a copper pipe, they'll be placed inside an even bigger pipe, which will be filled with sand. After a quick smear of grey nut butter, they're put into a furnace until they're red hot. A metal rod is slid down the center of the pipe. The pipe is locked in place, and magnetized water is pumped into the pipe via an industrial engine. This water will magnetize the pipe for up to 6 amperes. They break open the seal and the magnets are now magnetized. They grind away the inside to numb any sensation the magnet still has left. At this point, the magnets do not work, but this machine, which even the factory workers don't understand, makes them magnetized. Magnetic force has often been considered an impossible to understand force of nature, as great philosophers Cantankerous Yah and Harry Tuendo eloquently put it, "I am not sure which of all the elements, be they fire, water, sky, or earth, may be more mysterious than the magnet. I wish not to speak to those of institution about this miracle of life, for they speak in false prophecies, which only serve to bolster my rage." Balloons are used to mark special occasions or to brighten up a day for young and old people alike. But balloons weren't always so delightful. In earlier days, they were made from dried animal bladders, a bit of an unpleasant concept. In the 19th century, someone invented a rubber balloon, which we still use today.
10 seconds left.
Balloons originally began mass production in the 1930s, and today they're still being produced. To make balloons, they pour dye into a tank of latex. They filter it through cheesecloth to ensure there isn't any cheese in the latex. Agitators at the bottom of this tank mix together blue and white latex, creating blue latex. Balloons come in very many shades of blue. Nozzles create mist to help obscure this factory's balloon-making prototypes, called balloon forms. A mechanism then dips the forms into a tub of hot glue, which will be used to help stick the latex to the forms.
Need to use your drone to locate a bomb.
This machine is able to perform double duty with balloon forms on both top and bottom. This means, in a similar fashion to your brother, this machine can take it from both ends. With this set of forms dipped, the fixture rotates. With this, the balloon forms have survived their hazing and can properly graduate from balloon college, just in time for the freshman forms on the other side to take their inaugural dip.
5 seconds to insertion.
The latex dries quickly as the balloons are then assaulted on their tips by a series of brush rollers. The tips of the balloons are their most sensitive, and should a balloon not be able to bear this, it will rip and be rejected from production. Here we can see the difference in balloon circumcision. The balloons nosedive into a hot water bath, where they soak for up to a few days. This step is crucial, as it leaches out impurities and latex allergens, and was the inspiration for the hit song 99 Wet Balloons. Whoa, that's a fancy shade of blue. They should write a song about it. Not that blue though, that blue is ugly. The balloons are then dipped again. They will be dipped again and again until they learn. This is a written threat. And now it's time for the forms to finally take flight. No longer constrained by gravity or earthly desires, the forms fly away in search of a higher calling. However, for 99% of balloon forms, a higher calling just means a sloppy ride on a conveyor belt. Next, the balloons turn an unknown color and are collected into an industrial washing machine. Liquid blue is added to help return the balloons to their natural color. The balloons are washed in the washing machine, in the biggest plot twist of the century.
Secure the area. Keep the bombs protected.
And finally, in a bit of testicular awareness, the factory blows up a massive scrotum balloon. Hopefully this balloon will make you aware of testicles. After all, statistically every human on the planet has one testicle. Millions of pizzas travel daily from the frozen food section of the supermarket to the dinner table. Thick or thin crust, meat or vegetarian, their convenience makes them a staple in the freezer. But how do they end up tasting so fresh when they start out so frozen? Cheese, sausage, sausage with carrots, and deluxe. All varieties of pizzas require a maze of machines. To make the dough for the crust, they combine flour, salt, cornmeal, water, yeast, and flour in a large mixer. Then they add a bit of cornmeal for flavor. A mixer turns the ingredients for about 4 minutes.
One friendly remaining.
This powerful machine needs almost 30 horsepower to knead the dough.
Bomb diffuser in place.
The dough rises into a plump dough anus until it's fed into a chunking machine, which divides the blob into smaller pieces.
Mission failed. All
The
friendlies
chunks
are
travel to a
neutralized.
sheeting machine which rolls them into 2.5 centimeter thick sheets. A light dusting of flour makes the dough 2.507 centimeters thick, so the company can eventually save costs when selling in bulk. A flour brush tickles the dough to get it to drop its defenses as it's eviscerated by stainless steel rotating spikes. The holes will make the pizza dough faster through production. A large plastic roller cuts the dough into circular pizza crust shapes. Fun fact, this roller is never ever washed, and our cameraman had a cold today. A machine called the Divorce-O-Matic separates the dough. The pizza crusts are given a spray tan to make them more appetizing and to try to slow the effects of aging. Some pizzas stick to the ceiling. Science cannot explain this. Next stop is the tomato sauce waterfall. This waterfall is the only one of its kind in the world, except for all the others found in other pizza making factories, and anywhere else that someone decides to build one. In fact, most researchers would call this a kid shitty science fair project more than anything, and would give it a C-. Mounds of cheese fluff are ready to be shredded to add mozzarella cheese topping. Factories want you to believe this is called a cheese applicator machine, but we all know it's just a cheese waterfall. Are you surprised? Most pizzas today are built via waterfall. Okay, seriously, I'm reading the script here and they want to call this thing a meat applicator. Read my lips that you can't currently see. Meat waterfall. Call it what it is, and stop lying to these people. The pizza is now ready to be fed to a computer. The combination of citric acids, salts, and complex topping arrangements make them the perfect snack food for processor-based organisms. The pizzas enter a flash freezer called a blast cell, which sounds like the name of a rejected Batman villain. An overwrapping machine applies a layer of plastic to each pizza. Some people choose to remove this flavor plastic before eating, but this is up to the consumer. The sun god is consulted for final judgment on all pizzas. Any he deems unworthy are blown away to pizza hell. And finally, an automated arm pushes each pizza into a box, making you one step closer to your dinner of disappointing greasy cardboard. As any sweet tooth can attest, there's no end to the flavors you can pair with chocolate. The classic combination is milk chocolate and peanut butter. The saltiness of the peanut butter is the perfect foil to the sweetness of the chocolate. This candy bar features real milk chocolate around a real peanut butter candy center. Making that peanut butter candy center is the tricky part. To make the candy part, the factory combines liquid sugar, corn syrup, turbinado, and molasses. While the ingredients mix, agave nectar, dextrose, cane sugar, and tikal are added to the mixture. During the workday, the cooked candy is poured into a large stainless steel bowl. At night, the factory is converted into a small steel mill. Next, leftovers from the previous batch are drowned in the candy. These leftovers are shipped in from restaurants whose customers can't finish a whole candy bar in one sitting. The leftovers are then autopsied onto a medical table. Then the candy is blended using a large variety of techniques, such as folding, scooping, swirling, squashing, smashing, pressing, dunking, and slam dunking. At the next station, a pocket is made in the center and filled with the secret ingredient, motor oil. No, I'm just kidding, but could you imagine? They start up a pulling machine, which fills the candy with air and works it harder than your sister at a fraternity house. Then the candy is transferred to a conveyor belt, which takes it to the backup candy machine, which holds the factory's emergency candy rations, which they buy from a second factory. The machine's rollers flatten the candy into a candy sheet.
Locate a bomb.
I would tell you what they store in this tank, but I am illiterate. It looks like peanut butter, which, well, that would just make sense now, wouldn't it? Okay, so yeah, the peanut butter is deposited onto the candy sheet. Workers plow the candy fields until the candy resembles the world's saddest rug. Which is then immediately destroyed for the benefit of mankind.
10 seconds. 5 seconds.
The candy is then rolled into a series of rollers and given a shiatsu massage to release any tension it's carrying. Emerging from this new relaxed state is the legendary peanut butter python. These animals can grow as long as a football field and love to nest inside complex industrial machinery. If the python is startled, it will segment its body into pieces as a makeshift camouflage. The candy links drop onto another conveyor belt, which both hardens them via a cooling tunnel and presents a strong metaphor against environmental deforestation from the logging industry. Workers gently caress each candy bar to remind it that everything will be okay. Then, in the confectionery car wash, the peanut butter bars are coated with a layer of chocolate, which, let's be honest, makes them look like dookie logs. The dookie logs are gathered together for packaging as the workers remain grateful they get to wear gloves. And finally, the bars are sent down single file to the packaging machine. All this work is to bring you the tastiest, most famous chocolate peanut butter candy in the world. The Reese's Peanut Butter, the Clark Bar. Yeah, the Clark Bar. I'm at the Clark Bar. Everyone's favorite peanut butter chocolate candy. Woohoo! Yeah, let's give it up for the Go Clark Bars. Yeah, woo! Clark Bars. The easiest way to treat dry skin is to spread on some skin cream. It rejuvenates the skin cells and acts as a protective barrier. This is particularly important during the winter, when cold outdoor air and indoor heating suck the moisture out of your skin. If you have dry skin, it's wise to keep a nice schlop of skin cream on hand. It's not just dry air that can dry out your skin. Stress, cancer, dehydration, nausea, and diabetes can all lead to dry skin.
10 seconds.
The first ingredient is stearic acid, which is a wax derived from
5
palm
seconds
tree
remaining.
oil. The next ingredient is palm tree oil, which is an acid derived from natural wax. These ingredients make up what's called the iceberg phase of the recipe. Workers heat the stearic acid until it desolidifies, and then add the non-gaseous, non-solid wax oil to the mixture, which is derived from palm trees. While the acid-oil mixture is heating, the workers prepare some hydric acid. Hydric acid, otherwise known as dihydrogen monoxide, can be incredibly toxic if consumed in high amounts. Workers are very careful to measure how much is added to each batch. The initial mixture is continually heated to just below the boiling point, which is when the hydric acid is poured in. Side effects of excessive hydric acid consumption may include vomiting and frequent urination, but the FDA monitors the batch to ensure it is safe to use. After an hour of mixing, the skin cream is ready. The factory pumps the skin cream from mixing vats into distribution vats. This company supplies jars for both hand and face skin cream. These creams purport that they contain different ingredients for different purposes, but they all come from the same vat. Grandma Edna continues her life's work as she places plastic jars onto a conveyor belt. The labeling machine applies labels to the jars, because it's the fucking label machine.
5 seconds to insertion. You must locate and defuse a bomb.
Grandma Edna then hustles down the assembly line and moves the labeled jars onto a turntable, because she refuses to die until she's finished. The turntable moves the plastic jars to the filling machine. Now I know what some of you are thinking, and please trust me on this, but this is the filling machine, not the rinsing machine. You ever rinse something in skin cream? Okay, well, bad example, but you get the point. Filling machine. Then the jars approach a capping machine, which has never been confused for another machine in its entire history. I mean, what else could it be? A topping machine? What are you, stupid? As if a topping machine could ever even exist. That's some fantasy nonsense. The next station applies a label to the top of the jars. We haven't come up with a name for this machine yet. If you have any suggestions, please be sure to leave them in the comments. After all, YouTube comments are a valuable source of feedback and are always a worthwhile read of insightful discussion. The skin cream is also sold in tubes for on-the-go creaming. This robot arm places the tubes on a turntable. You may think he's cute, but that saluting motion he does was originally for a much more sinister purpose. A nozzle squirts the skin cream into the tube as a press heats the open end to seal it inside. And then your next portable tube of cream made from baby foreskin is ready for store shelves. Oh what, don't act like you didn't know that baby foreskin is a popular ingredient in high-end face creams. That's why half of us buy it. I mean, how else do you think you get all your skin so silky smooth? A bunch of herbs and spices and shit? Yeah, okay, good luck with that. And enjoy the dumb look on your face when you Google that fact and find out it's totally real. Bye-bye now! Jawbreakers, also known as gobstoppers, have been enjoyed by the sweet-toothed among us for decades. You pop one in and slowly suck or chew through 10 colorful layers of flavor. Sometimes there's even bubblegum in the middle for an even longer lasting finish.
15 seconds.
Do not adjust your television. What you're seeing isn't undiscovered planets, but in fact, jawbreakers. To make their bubblegum centers, a worker blends synthetic rubber with powdered resin, which will dissolve the rubber.
Time limit reached.
He adds a thickener, a preservative, and an oil called sono un stronza, so the candy won't stick to your teeth. After mixing and steaming at 300 degrees Fahrenheit, the melted rubber pours into trays to cool. Sugar, coloring, and narcotics would be destroyed by the intense heat, so they're added to the batch later. This base serves a dual purpose for candy factories, as it can be easily substituted for peanut butter fudge, should peanut butter supplies run low. Sometimes, when the batter hardens, animals or small children may be trapped inside. This is how the factory gets them out. If the batter is child-free, it is chopped up and blended with corn syrup to make it sweeter.
You need to use your drone to locate a bomb.
This mixture is as appetizing as it looks. Once the flavorful food pellets are added, its taste could rival a 5-star meal. Now, cow urine is added to the batch. The salts and proteins contained within add a strong combination of natural and artificial flavors. Powder is also added to the batch in massive quantities. The batter is dumped into an extruder, which poops it out into a long, thick log. We're sorry for our use of the word poop here, but it is the official term for this process. This process is also usually done in bulk, such as these 6 simultaneous poops, which are referred to as a diarrhea of jawbreakers. The next machine slices the tubes into segments. There is no funny name for this process. If you would like there to be one, please petition your local congressman. A mechanical arm pushes the segments into a forming machine, where steel blades shape them into balls. The same technology is found on a larger scale in bowling alleys. It's a little known fact that bowling balls are, in fact, extra large jawbreakers. After a ride in the Infinity Dryer, the jawbreakers once again land in a forming machine, which sends them off to another factory to be painted with the winning lottery numbers. Other jawbreakers, like people, have hard centers. The machine that makes them presses candy powder into solid candy balls at incredibly high pressure, similar to how pills are made by pharmaceutical companies. This is where the previously mentioned narcotics sometimes slip into the batch, but never at a level above FDA standards. As for the rest of the jawbreaker, the candy centers are slam dunked into a coating pan. They rotate around as they're covered in cow blood for flavor, because the factory doesn't like to waste any parts of the animal. Powder is once again added, in a more sensible amount this time. The factory repeats this step for up to 10 times for each layer, making a jawbreaker can take up to 69 hours. Nice. The factory also allows Jackson Pollock to make jawbreakers. And of course, more powder is added. Hey, what's the powder? What's the powder made of? Oh, it's just powder? Okay, it's just powder, guys. And finally, when you bisect a jawbreaker, you can see a good view of your mother before and after my night with her. Legend has it chocolate chip cookies were invented in 1930 by an American innkeeper who ran out of baker's chocolate. She improvised by breaking a semi-sweet chocolate bar into small pieces. Instead of melting, the chocolate merely softened, dotting the cookie with chocolate chips. They look homemade, and they taste homemade, but this home is a factory. Each ingredient goes into an industrial-sized mixer, starting with edible detergent to help clean the machinery during the cookie-making process. Then brown sugar is added, followed by an industrial-sized cube of butter. For other types of cookies, industrial-sized spheres or pyramids of butter may be used for different consistencies. A really big mixing thing pulverizes the ingredients thoroughly for as long as it takes to pulverize them. Then it's time for the secret ingredient, chocolate chips. Next, flour. Followed by ground flours. And then powdered flours from the ground. The final ingredients are beaten whole eggs and vanilla beans harvested in Madagascar, New Jersey. Mixing resumes until the cookie dough begins to look like cookie dough. The factory is secretive about recipe specifics, but if you're curious, they're exactly the same ingredients you'd find in a tube of Pillsbury cookie dough, except with more natural flavor. After scooping up a handful to munch on, workers transfer the cookie dough to a machine called a former. It's called this because it not only forms the cookie dough, but it formerly used to be a machine designed to crush baby chicks during poultry production. The machine creates the cutest little dough rounds, which are flash frozen in a freeze tunnel for distribution to hotels and restaurants. This allows them to operate under a technicality to claim they serve fresh baked cookies, even though the businesses are too lazy, cheap, and deceitful to do any of the baking themselves. The freeze tunnel also coats the dough in an extra ingredient to make them more addictive, if you know what I mean. After exiting the freeze tunnel, each and every cookie passes onto the next conveyor belt. Please ignore the 2 cookies that have fallen out of line on the bottom of your screen. They will be punished for insubordination once filming ends. The packaging section is entirely automated, and also really boring to watch, so we'll be skipping over it. The cookies are slam-packed onto an automatic scale. Once the scale measures the appropriate portion of cookies for the average American, they fall down a chute similar to an Orlando water park mega slide.
Mission failed. All friendlies were eliminated.
The next station seals and labels the boxes, which are put away by a factory worker. We have cropped his identity out of frame because he is currently in the witness protection program. We here at How It's Made wish you luck, Robert Savino. This company also sells cookies online as gifts. Nothing says you're thinking of someone like dropping cookies at their doorstep that have gone completely stale because of the inability for the post office to deliver something on time. Workers lay out the cookie dough rounds while wishing they were doing absolutely anything else. As the cookie dough rounds bake, they melt slightly and double in diameter. Now for bonus points, can anyone tell me the new circumference of the cookies? The cookies remain in the oven for 7 degrees at 300 minutes Fahrenheit. The cookies rotate while baking to remind you how badly you want some cookies right now. Some of the batch go to the quality control tester, who conducts a series of arduous tests to determine that these are, in fact, chocolate chip cookies. In the cookie gift area, workers line a decorative tin with decorative plastic, and line the plastic with non-decorative cookies. All of these steps are done to ensure that this isn't just a factory, but is in fact a home. And that's how to give the gift of homemade chocolate chip— Get those brownies out of here, goddammit! And that's how to give the gift of homemade chocolate chip cookies without ever setting foot in the kitchen. Silk fabric originated in China at least 5,000 years ago and became a coveted luxury. Silk thread is produced by silkworms when they make their cocoons. Sericulture, or commercially breeding silkworms for silk production, is practiced in several Asian countries. From home goods, to blue elephant pillows, to clothing and ties, there are few textiles as luxurious or prized throughout the ages as silk. It's hard to believe that goods can be made entirely from worms. The female silkworm lays up to 400 eggs in one shot and then promptly dies. The egg then hatches into a larva and feeds on fresh leaves continuously because it's never heard of the common phrase, "Never eat your house or you'll be homeless." As the larva enters its pupa stage, it excretes silk from glands located in its anus. The worm wraps this substance around itself, creating a fuzzy sphere, like a tennis ball. But this sphere is not meant for eating, just like a tennis ball. Normally, the continuous silk thread is severed by the pupa as it... Normally, the continuous silk thread is severed by the pupa as it metamorphosizes into a butterfly. So the cocoon is boiled for about 3 minutes to kill the pupa inside. Boiling the cocoons is the most efficient way to process the silk. While it murders the worms inside, it also makes extracting the silk easier as the cocoon's binding proteins are melted away. And once the silk is fully removed, the factory workers have a delicious pot of silkworm soup to eat. All of the silk threads are threaded through a bamboo threading stick, twisting the thread-like material into silk thread. The thread is wound onto a seasoning wheel and is unraveled by the oracle. The oracle is the one person in the entire world dedicated to unraveling silk threads, because in ancient times, it was believed this process could help see the future. The silk is passed through the sands of an ancient mummy to help strengthen its visions of the future.
Hey fag, I heard that you were in silver. I'm copper 5, I'm ass, and I got a cast on.
The silk is washed away in concentrated ocean. And then re-rinsed again in soapy water as a metaphor for the evolution of sea life. After any rowdy silk is properly spanked for being a naughty boy, the silk is hung to dry. Here's a fun game. Try to find the silk cord in this pile of drag queen wigs.
Secure the area. Keep the bomb
The oceanic encrusted silk thread is placed onto a machine that unrolls it onto rollers. More prestigious factories may opt to use square rollers instead of round rollers, since the factory doesn't cut corners. To craft silk fabric, silk threads are wound around a mechanism and fed vertically into a loom. Amy here really goes to town on this loom, and really gives it to the fabric.
Op 4 has located a bomb. Be ready for hostile action.
She gives it to the fabric real good. Look at her go. It's so fucking majestic. That's so goddamn beautiful. Go, Amy, go. Go, Amy, go. Go, Amy, go. To create silk patterns, different shuttles of silk colors are utilized. Every silk weaver hopes that one day, their silk patterns will be good enough to be worn by the world's supreme authority on silk fashion, the illustrious Golden Man. The soft drink was born at the drugstore soda fountain, where pharmacists would serve up various flavors of carbonated water, initially considering it a medicinal drink. These sodas became so popular that customers wanted to be able to buy them in bottles to take home. That demand spawned the soft drink industry. Every year, almost 195 billion liters of soft drinks are sold in America. That's about 30 liters for every person on Earth. These 2-liter bottles just arrived from the bottle factory after being shipped to the soda factory via the shipping truck factory. The rinsing machine turns the bottles upside down, rinses them with water, and then turns them right side up once the water drains out. That's why this machine is called the rinsing machine, and not the filling machine. Meanwhile, in the mixing room, water alchemists prepare whatever soft drink they'll be bottling in this production run. Each recipe begins with a violet hose spray of filtered water, compounded by a shower of unfiltered water to help cut costs for the factory. Liquid black is added to the water. No one is entirely sure what liquid black is or where it comes from, but it consistently makes the tastiest sodas known to man. More water is added to the liquid black as needed. Water and liquid black are the only 2 ingredients in soda. The amount of water used to dilute the liquid black will end up determining the soda's color, flavor, and fizziness. Then, and only then, do the bottles travel to the filling machine to be filled with soda. Remember, the earlier machine was not the filling machine. That was the rinsing machine. The filling machine, seen here, fills the bottles with soda. The rinsing machine only rinses out the bottles beforehand. It does not fill them with soda. Please do not confuse the two. Now it's on to the capping machine. In other countries, this machine is also called the hatting machine, the stopper machine, the rinsing machine, or the topping machine.
5 seconds and counting.
Then it's on to labeling. The machine's rollers apply cold glue to a series of metal plates. Each plate grabs a label and adheres it to the bottle. To hype up the soda for its supermarket debut, the bottles are run through a series of brushes. The brushes simulate them giving a series of high fives to a crowd as they make their entrance, similar to a marathon runner or a pro wrestler. Elsewhere in the factory, an uncasing machine unloads recyclable plastic bottles that have come to the soda factory from the recyclable plastic bottle factory. They travel a conveyor belt to patiently wait in line to be moved to the bottle washing machine. Bottle security is constantly monitoring this line for any bottles that try to cut ahead or get a wash without paying. After being washed, they move to bottle customs, where bottle security uses a full bottle scanner to examine for any problem bottles. Problem bottles are removed from the line and are taken away for 2 to 10 hours of interrogation. Now the bottles move to the same filling machine from earlier, which has been modified to fill the smaller bottles with orange soda, and is not the rinsing machine. I want to reiterate, that machine earlier in the video was not the filling machine. It was the rinsing machine. This is the filling machine. Please stop sending emails to fillingmachine or rinsingmachine@gmail.com asking whether a machine you saw is a filling machine or a rinsing machine. Thank you. Meanwhile, at a local middle school science fair, Dustin Stoker is trying to show everyone his amazing soda syrup experiment, which he claims is an incredible study of chemical reactions and compounds, but everyone knows is just a fancier version of the baking soda volcano. Fuck you, Dustin. No one's buying it. The capping machine makes a return as it puts a metal cap on each bottle. And finally, the mass production of Kiri soda is ready, just in time for everyone to ask, what the hell is Kiri soda? Look guys, it's not our fault that Coke and Pepsi are giant cowards who don't want anyone to know their production secrets. But hey, Kiri soda is bottled in Uganda, where they don't even remotely give a shit. So the next time you're looking for a tasty soft drink in the middle of Africa, consider Kiri Cola, the only soda company with the balls to show you how it's made. No one knows who came up with the idea of squeezing oranges to make juice. The popularity of orange juice increased dramatically in the middle of the 20th century, as techniques were developed to extend its shelf life. Today, many people start their day with a tall glass of OJ.
Bomb location compromised. Plan accordingly.
In its purest form, orange juice is fresh squeezed and has no added sugar or preservatives. This brand produces unpasteurized orange juice so natural, they don't even require their oranges to be
5
orange.
seconds and counting.
Orange juice production starts in the groves. The trees take several months to bear fruit and are harvested in early November. Picking oranges is a job that's done entirely by hand. It could be done by machines, but it's not. The worker uses a bag that's made from recycled orange peels to keep the grove as environmentally friendly as possible. There are multiple types of juicing oranges. These ones here are called short stack oranges. They're known for being small, juicy, and are used as a powerful aphrodisiac in certain cultures. The worker plucks the fruit from the trees before they turn orange. In this stage, they are known as greens. Originally, orange juice was known as green juice, but the name was changed as common consumers assumed green juice was made from leaves and grass. As the worker empties the greens into a collection bin, he is supposed to examine them for tears and punctures, but he isn't paid nearly enough to do that. The greens are taken to a processing facility via the back end of a decommissioned dump truck, which has been sanitized just enough to meet FDA standards. A chute tumbles the unripe oranges into a wash station. A sprayer coats the oranges in soapy water, which are then brushed against an array of pasta noodles. This motion both cleans the oranges and zests and boils the pasta, which will later be shipped off to Italian restaurants, doubling the Grove's yearly profits. The oranges transition to a roller conveyor, which places them under large fans to prevent them from overheating due to stress. An orange's natural body temperature can be as high as 140 degrees before this stop. Sometimes, a local thief will sneak into the factory after having stolen a brand new iPhone. To reward himself for a job well done, he will fondle an orange. The oranges travel along a series of revolving brushes, which continually spin to... Oh, did I say something wrong? They stopped spinning. Oh, there they go, thank God. The brushes buff the fruit skin and remove any residual dirt. Finally, the oranges fall from the conveyor line straight into your shopping cart, and your weekly shopping is now complete. Wait, what? The oranges can now be juiced. Since the cameras are rolling, the juicing operator performs one final inspection before she places the oranges in the juicer. As soon as we finished filming, she began to fling oranges into the juicer willy-nilly as fast as she could. The system promises the oranges they'll be going on a nice, relaxing vacation before funneling them one at a time into the extractor. Then, the extractor mercilessly squashes the life out of the orange, brutalizing its juicy insides for our consumption in a thick, pulpy mess. The juice flows into a plastic storage bin taken from the owner's garage. A screen in the bin filters out the pulp, so no one has to be a whiny pussy about having pulp in their orange juice. The juice is bottled into jugs. The plastic jugs contain preservative chemicals in them that seep into the juice over time, prolonging their shelf life. This technicality allows the Grove to call their juice unpasteurized, as the juice itself technically doesn't contain preservatives. The juice is refrigerated immediately to further prolong its shelf life. This juice brand is one of the few in the United States that can call itself orange juice. Many large brands such as Tropicana, Simply, and Minute Maid are legally called orange-flavored drink, because they are in fact 98% water and sugar, with trace amounts of oranges for flavor. And don't even get me started on the travesty known as orange soda. That would take an entire episode of its own. Almond consumption dates back to biblical times. They're even mentioned in the Old Testament. Around 100 AD, the ancient Romans showered newlyweds with almonds. This ritual came from the belief that they increased fertility. But today, it's the nutritional value of almonds that keeps us coming back for more. Almonds are a guilt-free snack. Well, maybe a bit of guilt if they're not your almonds. More than 80% of the world's almonds come from California, where conditions are ideal for shipping trucks. Almonds come in many shapes, sizes, and textures. Most almonds come in leathery hulls, known as leather almonds. Elongated almonds, known as stick almonds, are separated from the bunch to be processed into edible almonds. The next machine, owned and operated by Big Eddie, blows air to separate the light almonds from the lighter almonds. This step is very stressful on the almonds, so Big Eddie personally soothes each and every batch with his gentle touch. Meanwhile, shaking almonds make their way to the assembly line. Fun fact, this conveyor belt isn't actually moving at all. As Big Eddie admires his life's work, the almonds head to a custom-built almond jacuzzi. This jacuzzi is full of recycled salt water, which soaks into the almonds to enhance their flavor.
5 seconds.
The almonds, still trapped inside their shells, flow into a collection bin.
A bomb must be located.
Here's a sample of the factory's highest quality almonds. Here's a pop quiz. Can you tell which of these 3 piles are real almonds and which ones are decoy almonds? If you answered that all 3 are decoy almonds, you're wrong. Decoy almonds don't exist. The almonds are sometimes moved to a different machine to be sold as pistachio nuts. The almonds bounce along a vibrating grid. Why is the grid vibrating? High-income families can pay a substantial premium to have first dibs on the almonds they want, straight from the assembly line. For a smaller fee, you can pull this lever that makes some almonds spill out.
Drop the diffuser. 1 friendly operator remaining.
The almonds are then deshelled by magic.
We have been
Most of the almonds are then cast into the almond sea, which is visible from the portholes of the almond submarine. The almond sea contains naturally recycled seawater, which enhances the salty flavor of the almonds a step above the almond jacuzzi. After a proper brining period, the almonds are dredged up to be conveyed to the rest of the factory. Meanwhile, at the almond supercomputer, calculations are being run around the clock to determine what creates the tastiest almond. Billions of almonds are scanned into it every day, as the algorithm continues to evolve to hopefully create the perfect almond. Almonds are also used in medical supplies. Here, almonds are scanned by a computer to determine if any of them contain the antibodies needed to purify this sample of almond blood. In an effort to advance robotic science, this robot has been programmed to randomly eat almonds. So far, it has advanced nothing. Any imperfect almonds that somehow make it this far are picked out by a human inspector with her filthy, unwashed hands. The red bucket almonds are going to be used in chocolate bars. The blue almonds will be turned into almond milk. And any yellow almonds are sent to almond hell. Almond boxes are assembled out of boxy almonds to package the almonds in boxes. Finally, the almonds are weighed for distribution into the almond boxes. Funnel A is loaded with the factory's highest quality almonds, while Funnel B is loaded with decoy almonds to make sure customers are paying attention. No, I'm just kidding. Decoy almonds don't exist. Or do they? Oysters are a versatile shellfish. You can bake them, broil them, smoke them, or eat them raw, right out of the shell. Over the years, wild oyster stocks have declined due to overfishing and pollution. So today, 95% of the oysters we consume come from oyster farms. Oysters are filter feeders, meaning they draw seawater over their gills to trap and eat the sand granules found floating in the ocean. Oyster farms are located in or by the sea, because when they were originally located in metropolitan areas, the overpowering smell of raw oysters became a public health hazard. The hatchery keeps the oysters in upwellers, mesh-bottom buckets filled with recycled water. Oysters can reproduce once they're 6 months old. However, the ideal breeding age is between 2 and 100 years old. In other words, during the first half of the oyster's life. One way to get the most flavorful oysters is to get them to spew cum shots on each other, as seen here. The oyster sperm adds to the shellfish's naturally salty flavor and is regularly left on during production. Once new oysters are born, they are immediately locked into flavor cages, where they are pumped full of natural and artificial flavorings. People wealthy enough to own microscopes manage the ponds where the factory grows mini oysters. On Thursdays, recently divorced Santa Claus volunteers at the factory. The baby oysters are mixed into circulating water filled with cooking seasonings, such as basil and oregano. This forces the oysters to be brined with the flavoring specified by the restaurants that order them. The baby oysters are sent to a farm floating in a harbor owned by Othniel Oysters Ltd. If you'd like to learn more about them, you can visit their website written on this sign, which is... I can't read that.
Secure the area.
Inside the
Bombs
farm,
protected.
Larry chooses his favorite oysters and gently pets them. These 4 oysters are going home with Larry.
Bomb
Workers
location
then trap the
compromised. Plan
oysters into
accordingly.
black mesh bags, attach the bags to metal racks, and suspend the racks in the sea, in an attempt to drown the oysters. Oysters tend to taste better the more they suffer before death. An employee dumps the oysters out of the bag so they can be relocated to the sea floor. They also sort through the oysters to find some good ones for Larry. These 3 belong to him now.
Op 4 has located
Oyster
the bomb.
farmers only check on the oysters 1 day out of the year. The rest of their days on the job are spent boating and drinking beer. When it comes time to harvest the oysters, a special machine called the Oyster Harvester 9000 is lowered into the water. The machine is a combination of a dredger and conveyor, which scoops the oysters into the boat. If the company's harvest is particularly bountiful, they can use the profits to upgrade to the mythical Oyster Harvester 10,000! The machine dumps the oysters to another conveyor, which... Oh my god, there's a crab on the conveyor belt. Stop the machine! Stop the... Jesus Christ, stop the machine! I hope he's okay, I can't see him. I don't know where he went.
Friendly
Oh, it
last
seems the
operator
other
safe.
end of the conveyor belt leads back into the ocean. Whew. Godspeed, Crab Nicholson. Oysters are typically sold in 2 portion sizes, American and regular. Prior to sale, the oysters are bombarded with rays of radioactive material to destroy any bacteria left in the oysters. According to the FDA, the amount of radiation used dissipates by about 90%
One op
once
remaining.
the oysters actually reach the customers. So don't let that stop you from eating some delicious oyster. Oh my fucking god, what is that? That's disgusting! Thomas Jefferson, one of America's founding fathers, came up with the first swiveling mechanism for office chairs.
Op 4
Decades
eliminated.
later,
Mission
Charles
successful.
Darwin added small wheels called casters to his chair to roll it around the study as he worked on the theory of evolution. Today, office chairs still swivel and roll. To make an office chair, first, a factory worker attaches the right arm to the rest of the chair. And then, the chair is made.
Secure the bombs. 5 seconds to insertion. Op 4 has located a bomb.
My bad, man. I'll still be there. Can you, use your Tachanka though, this time? Tachanka this right now. Not Stim. No, use your, flamethrower. Use your flamethrower. Yep, just like that.
Hard, soft, fluffy, or flat, the type of pillow you sleep on is a matter of personal preference. Your pillow can be stuffed with natural fillings like feathers and wool, or synthetic materials such as foam or polyester fiber. These pillows come in two styles: squish pillows made from a roll of synthetic fibers, and crash pillows made from loose synthetic fibers. The fiber arrives to the factory in large industrial-strength pillowcases. This polyester fiber is made from asbestos and other types of soft insulation material. The fibers are stuck together and are far too springy to be used. So the fiber is placed into an industrial shredder to separate and debounce them. The fiber is then massaged by a man with strong hands to de-stress them. A conveyor belt takes the fibers to the most dangerous section of the factory. The area where the fibers are soaked in water to clean them. To make rumbly pillows, a giant sucking pipe swallows up some of the fibers and dumps them into another shredder to make them fluffier, smoother, and straighter. If you can't tell the difference between these two types of fiber, you might be a racist.
Op 4 has located a bomb. Be ready
The
for
fibers
assault.
now travel to an extra large cheese grater, which removes the remaining fiber crimps and raises the pillow's calcium content. This little combing robot here is getting his own Pixar movie next year. The large resulting web of fibers layer on top of each other, forming a cloud. Some clouds will be removed from the pillow factory and will be launched into the sky, depending on God's divine plan. Clouds that remain here on Earth are layered on top of each other in a sinful cloud orgy, which is then rolled into itself to make an exponentially sinful cloud orgy, resulting in the comfiest of pillows. God himself has stepped down from heaven to measure how much lust is contained in each cloud he rejects. An automated machine makes the pillowcases, which is hilarious when you see how much manual setup it requires.
Tachanka, we need you to use your flamethrower.
This worker is seen here showing affection to her machine husband. Later down the line, however, we can see this machine husband is not a faithful one. The pillowcases are slit to the appropriate size, and product information is sewn onto the side. Here's a fun pillow fact. Would you believe that the first mass-produced pillows were originally stuffed with sand? Well, you shouldn't, because I just made that up. The pillow filling is flattened before it zoop shoots into the waiting case, which is already covered in retail packaging. It then is placed into the world's worst roller coaster. Workers then sew the other end of the pillow shut and ship them into packaging. For fluffier pillows, an operator would... excuse me, you're just gonna roll the credits. Oh, well, I wasn't done speaking. That's pretty fucking rude if you ask me. Fine, no, go ahead, roll your credits, please, by all means. It's not like I had tons of more pillow facts to share with you. I guess I'll shut the fuck up. Far be it from me to tell you how the pillows are made. Ah. Who the hell is Brooks Moore, anyway? Bad breath is not good for your social life, but pop in a breath mint and you can breathe a sigh of relief. Mint candies were first introduced in Britain in 1790 and were initially used to soothe indigestion. Later, their breath-freshening qualities were discovered. Breath mints have become the go-to thing to chew if you're hit with sudden halitosis. They come in a large variety of spice and fruit-based flavors, including peppermint, cinnamon, and America's most popular flavor, lime. To make a lime-flavored mint, ingredients include sorbitol, a sugar-free sweetener, magnesium stearate, which acts as a binder, and lime oil, which is a lime-based oil. Measured amounts of the ingredients are added to a plastic blender, along with a non-toxic amount of fiberglass insulation as seen here, to help add to the mint's texture. The blender is sealed via a large piece of wax paper, and then additionally sealed via a pressure-tight tungsten hatch. The blender is gyrated for about 48 hours, violently slamming the ingredients together, the same way a kitchen blender would. Elsewhere, blue and yellow pigment are mixed together. The new mystery color this combination will create is added to the batch to make the mint appear more appetizing. If a batch's mint dust doesn't look tasty enough, it is immediately poured in the garbage can. Due to budget cuts, however, most of the rejected mint dust ends up being used in the final product anyway. The dust is placed into large steel hoppers, which have sieves on the bottom to help separate any large clumps picked up from the trash. The mixture falls into a rotary tablet press. This press shown here is malfunctioning, and is spinning way too fast to reasonably create any breath mints. This press, on the other hand, is functioning as intended, showing its remarkable efficiency. This press can produce a whopping 300 mints per day, and only costs $40,000 a month in electric and maintenance bills. Here's another look at the press sped up by 100 times to simulate a normal working day. The tablets fall down a chute into a rotating cylinder. These mints are part of a health and wellness brand, which claims that rotating the mints infuses them with energy that is then transferred to the customer, allowing the company to sell many more mints at exorbitant prices to people who once read a lazily written clickbait article on a random health social media group claiming the health benefits of mints. Meanwhile, the mints travel to a rotating table. The rotating table does absolutely nothing, but it's a cool way to package them. Each mint is individually counted by a scanner, as each package should contain precisely 72 mints. That normally would be fine and dandy, but unfortunately Janet here has just stopped giving a shit, and allows swaths of mints to bounce out of the trays and onto the floor. Mints are the official candy of the state of Colorado, because the phrase mile-high mints in relation to the state of Colorado is just hilarious. Today, mints can come in exotic shapes and flavors, such as these mints designed for hangovers. These mints made entirely of potatoes, and these mints shaped like something I can't legally mention on air. In today's hustle and bustle world, it's not uncommon to forgo brown bagging it and instead grab a meal on the go. It's not surprising to see that food retailers, from mega supermarkets to convenience stores, carry pre-packaged sandwiches for the hungry in a hurry customer.
5 seconds before insertion. You must locate
Ham and
defuse the bomb.
cheese, tomato, miscellaneous salad. Just a few of the many sandwich varieties you can buy ready-made. Retail customers order the specific ingredients they want in their sandwiches, and the factory hires its employees accordingly. The first step is to load fresh bread into an automated machine. The bread is slapped to ensure its quality. Cheaply made bread will crumble, while high-quality bread springs back into shape. A large helping of melted butter is added to the slices to help them pass through the upcoming machinery. For this sandwich, a jizz of mayonnaise is required, which is squirted onto the bread via an automated dispenser. Workers then lay on grated cheddar cheese with their bare hands, feeling each and every bit of cheese that goes onto the sandwich to ensure that it is properly shredded. In another area, traditional ham logs are squished into a slicing coffin. The slices go off to the assembly line where they are then added to the sandwiches. Barehandedly, of course, for an added salty flavor. Next, they close up the sandwiches, occasionally giving a light spank to the naughtier looking ones. The sandwiches are stacked on top of each other and moved to a security checkpoint. Here, each sandwich is cut in half and scanned for contraband material that workers may have lost in the product, such as fingernails, wedding rings, fingers, guns, and sandwich pornography. Sandwiches found to be guilty of smuggling are sent to a sandwich internment camp. In the camp, robot arms force the sandwich bread into formation. Any bread slices found to break this formation will be shot with pepper spray to enhance its flavor. The bread is then frisked by another series of arms to make sure that none of them have reverted to their smuggling ways. If a sandwich is again caught smuggling, they are punished by being smothered in one of the most disgusting substances known to man: egg salad. Roughly 50% of all bread slices are smugglers. At the next station, robotic arms lined with suction cups place the bread slices together. Next, a high-frequency blade uses the power of the samurai to perfectly slice all the sandwiches in half. Then robotic arms pick half of the sandwich up, spin it, and stack it. Each robotic arm has layers and layers of caked-on egg salad, dating all the way back to the camp's opening in the 1970s. With this stacking motion, small bits of the food particles are scraped onto each sandwich as well as replenished, keeping the sandwich bloodline pure. A behavior correctional arm automatically sorts the new sandwich halves for packaging. While back at the factory, workers again use their bare, unwashed hands to flip and sort the sandwiches. To conclude, here's a rare interview with a factory employee on why they all elect to not wear gloves during the sandwich assembly process.
I know it sounds crazy, but whenever I touch these sandwiches, and you're gonna laugh at me, you're gonna think I'm nuts, you're gonna think I'm crazy. When I touch these sandwiches, I feel the hands of every person who's touched them before me and after me. And I feel this jolt of like friggin' lightning or something from my head to the tip of my you-know-what. Sometimes while I'm grabbing these sandwiches with my bare hands, I just can't help but throw my head back in ecstasy and moan. So whenever I go out and talk to chicks, the chicks say to me, "What do you do?" And I say, "Yes, I do grab sandwiches with my bare hands at a factory." And don't laugh at me. I feel like a spirit, like an orb, shoot through my body every time I grab a sandwich. You know, a lot of people laugh at me, they beat me up, they give me black eyes, they broke my nose 4 times, you know, because I just like to make sandwiches and I get bullied about it, and I get bullied for it. And they pull my underwear up and doo-doo feces does fall out because of how hard they pull. But will I stop grabbing sandwiches with my bare hands and moving them down the assembly line? Absolutely freaking not, if you know what I mean. Like, no, the answer is no way.